The upscale Manhattan restaurant buzzed with energy, the sound of clinking glasses and lively conversations filling the air. Naomi Carter, a hardworking 25-year-old waitress, weaved through the crowded dining area with practiced ease. With one hand, she expertly balanced a tray of drinks, and with the other, she scribbled down orders. For the past 3 years, she had poured her heart into this job, saving every dollar for her dream, opening her very own bakery. It wasn't glamorous, but she had become a favorite among customers, known for her warm smile and quick wit. That night, the winter chill seeped through the doors as they swung open, letting in a gust of cold air. A man stepped inside. He wore a black hoodie, dark sunglasses, and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. Something about him felt familiar, but Naomi didn't have time to think about it. She had tables to serve. As she approached the stranger's table, she put on her best customer service smile. "Hey there. What can I get you?" she asked, her pen ready to take his order. The man hesitated before pulling down his hood just enough for her to see his face. Naomi's eyes widened in shock. She almost dropped her notepad. Sitting right in front of her was none other than Dwayne Johnson, one of the biggest Hollywood stars in the world. "I'll just have a black coffee, please," he said in a low voice, clearly hoping to stay under the radar. Naomi's heart pounded, but she forced herself to stay professional. She gave him a small nod. "Coming right up." As she walked away, excitement bubbled inside her. Of all places, why was he here? She returned with his coffee and, lowering her voice, whispered, "I won't tell anyone, but it's an honor to serve you." Dwayne chuckled, flashing that famous grin. "Thanks, I appreciate that." At first, it seemed like the night would pass without trouble. But soon, Naomi noticed customers sneaking glances at Dwayne. Some pulled out their phones, whispering to each other. Within minutes, the quiet murmurs turned into full-blown excitement. People were taking pictures, some even standing up to get a better look. Then, like a storm brewing on the horizon, the restaurant manager, Philip, stormed toward her. His face was red with frustration. "Naomi," he hissed through clenched teeth, "what did I tell you about fraternizing with customers? Especially VIPs?" Naomi blinked. "I wasn't, he's just having coffee." Philip wasn't buying it. He glanced at the growing chaos and shook his head. "Get him out of here." "Now," Naomi hesitated. She looked at Dwayne, who seemed uncomfortable but calm. Her stomach twisted. "I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson," she said softly. "Management is asking if you could maybe finish your coffee somewhere else." Dwayne's face remained unreadable, but he simply nodded and stood up. "No problem. Thanks for the coffee." As he walked out the door, Naomi felt a sinking feeling in her chest. She had a bad feeling this wasn't over. The next morning, Naomi sat nervously outside Philip's office, her stomach twisting into knots. She knew this wasn't going to be good. Philip never called employees in for a meeting unless something bad was about to happen. "Naomi, get in here," Philip barked from inside. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the small, dimly lit office. Philip stood behind his desk, arms crossed, his face twisted in anger. "You put this restaurant in jeopardy," he snapped. "Do you know how many reservations we lost last night because of your little stunt?" Naomi's eyes widened. "I didn't do anything wrong. I was just serving a customer like I always do." Philip scoffed. "That customer turned this place into a circus. People came here to eat in peace, not gawk at celebrities. And now, thanks to you, we look unprofessional." Naomi's chest tightened. "I didn't tell anyone who he was. They figured it out on their own." Philip shook his head. "I don't care. You should have handled it better." "But you didn't. So now you're fired." The words hit Naomi like a slap. "Fired? Just like that?" Tears pricked at her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Lifting her chin, she met Philip's glare. "I worked hard here for 3 years. And you're firing me for something I couldn't even control?" Philip smirked. "That's how it works. Pack your things." Naomi clenched her fists, then turned on her heel and walked out. As she gathered her belongings, coworkers whispered around her. Some looked sympathetic. Others avoided her gaze entirely. By the time she stepped out into the cold, Her dream of owning a bakery seemed farther away than ever. That night, Naomi lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. She had no idea what to do next. Bills were piling up, and now, without a job, everything felt impossible. A loud knock at the door startled her. Heart pounding, she climbed out of bed and peered through the peephole. A well-dressed man in a sharp suit stood outside. Confused, she cracked the door open slightly. "Can I help you?" The man gave a polite nod. "Miss Naomi Carter?" She hesitated before answering. "Yes." "Who's asking?" "I'm here on behalf of Mr. Dwayne Johnson," he said with a small smile. "He'd like to meet with you." Naomi's breath caught in her throat. "Wait, what? Is this some kind of joke?" The man shook his head. "Not at all. He personally asked me to escort you to his office." Naomi blinked, trying to process his words. Of all the things she expected after losing her job, this wasn't one of them. Still skeptical, she quickly got dressed, grabbed her coat, and followed the man outside. A sleek black SUV waited at the curb. Naomi slid into the back seat, her heart racing. As the city lights blurred past, one thought kept running through her mind. Why would Dwayne Johnson want to see her? Naomi sat stiffly in a plush chair, her heart pounding as she stared across the sleek office at Dwayne Johnson. She still couldn't believe she was sitting here, face to face with one of the biggest stars in the world. "Naomi, come on in," Dwayne said warmly, gesturing for her to sit. She hesitated before taking a seat, still struggling to process why she was here. "Mr. Johnson, I don't understand. Why did you call me here?" Dwayne set down his coffee cup and leaned forward, his expression serious. "I heard what happened after I left the restaurant," he said. "You stood up for me, even though it cost you your job." Naomi swallowed hard. "I just did what I thought was right." A small smile tugged at the corner of Dwayne's lips. "And that's exactly why I want to help you." He reached across the desk and slid a folder toward her. Naomi hesitated before opening it. Inside was a business proposal, her name printed right at the top. Her breath caught as she skimmed through the pages. It was for a bakery, her bakery. "I heard about your dream," Dwayne continued. "So, I want to make it happen." Naomi looked up at him, her hands shaking. You're serious?" "Dead serious," he nodded. "I've already secured a prime location. All you have to do is say yes." Tears welled up in Naomi's eyes. For years, she had worked tirelessly, barely scraping by, all for the hope of one day opening her own bakery. And now, this opportunity, one she never imagined possible, was right in front of her. "Why me?" she whispered. Dwayne's smile softened. "Because you didn't hesitate to do the right thing, even when it wasn't easy. That kind of integrity is rare." Naomi wiped at her eyes, then straightened up, her heart racing. "Yes," she said firmly, her voice filled with newfound confidence. 1,000 times yes." Dwayne grinned. "That's what I like to hear." As Naomi left the office that day, her entire world had changed. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was about to become a business owner. And for the first time in a long time, she truly believed that anything was possible. Mia stood in front of her brand new bakery, her heart racing with excitement. The golden letters on the sign above read Maya's Sweet Escape. She could hardly believe it. Her lifelong dream was now a reality. The grand opening had been a bigger success than she ever imagined. A long line of eager customers stretched around the block, all waiting to try her famous cinnamon rolls and pastries. Inside, the air was filled with the warm, sweet aroma of freshly baked goods, and the soft hum of happy chatter filled the space. But what made the day even more special was the man standing beside her, Dwayne Johnson. True to his word, he had shown up for the grand opening, cutting the ribbon and posing for pictures with her. Mia stood behind the counter, serving her first batch of customers. She felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Inside, the air was filled with the warm, sweet aroma of freshly baked goods, and the soft hum of happy chatter filled the space. But what made the day even more special was the man standing beside her, Dwayne Johnson. True to his word, he had shown up for the grand opening, cutting the ribbon and posing for pictures with her. Mia stood behind the counter, serving her first batch of customers. She felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Just weeks ago, she had lost her job at the restaurant. "You did it," Dwayne said, stepping up to the counter with a proud smile. Mia laughed, wiping a happy tear from her eye. "I couldn't have done it without you." Dwayne chuckled and grabbed a cinnamon roll from the tray. "Well, let's see if this was worth the investment." He took a bite, his eyes widening in delight. "Mia, this is incredible." The compliment made her cheeks flush. "Coming from you, that means everything." As the day went on, more and more customers poured in. News of Maya's inspiring journey had spread, and people wanted to support her. She could hear snippets of conversation as people talked about her story, how she had been fired unfairly but turned her misfortune into something amazing. Hours passed, and even as the sun set, the bakery remained packed. It was a day she would never forget. As she locked up that night, Mia took a deep breath, letting it all sink in. She had worked so hard for this moment, and it had finally paid off. Dwayne, who had stayed until closing, gave her a knowing look. "This is just the beginning." Mia smiled, feeling a confidence she had never felt before. I know. She wasn't just a waitress anymore. She was a business owner, a dreamer who had made the impossible happen. And no matter what challenges came next, she knew she was ready. Mia's bakery was thriving. Ever since the grand opening, customers poured in every day, eager to try her delicious pastries. The bakery had become more than just a business. It was a symbol of her hard work and resilience. But as her dream grew bigger, something dark lurked in the background, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. One chilly evening, after closing up for the night, Mia wiped down the counters, humming softly to herself. The warm scent of cinnamon and vanilla still lingered in the air. Just as she was about to turn off the lights, a black SUV pulled up outside. Mia froze. The tinted windows and slow, deliberate stop made her uneasy. Moments later, the door opened, and out stepped a familiar face, Philip, her former manager. He walked into the bakery with a smug grin. "Well, well, well. Look at you, Miss Success Story." Mia's stomach tightened. She had hoped never to see him again. "What do you want, Philip?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. Philip chuckled, but there was no humor in it. "Just paying a visit. You see, I've been thinking, none of this would have happened without me." Mia narrowed her eyes. "Excuse me?" Philip leaned in slightly. "Think about it. If I hadn't fired you, you wouldn't be standing here, would you? So, I figured you owe me. Let's say 50% of your profits. A little partnership." Mia's heart pounded. "That's not going to happen." Philip's smirk faded. At his signal, two large men stepped inside, their presence immediately making the air thick with tension. "You should think carefully," Philip warned. "I can make things difficult for you. Or we can work together, and everyone wins." Mia's hands clenched into fists. Before she could respond, the sound of an engine roared outside. Then, a deep, familiar voice called out. "Mia, you okay in there?" Philip's confidence wavered as Dwayne Johnson strode into the bakery, his tall frame commanding the room. His sharp eyes scanned the scene, instantly understanding what was happening. Dwayne turned to Mia. "Who's this?" Mia crossed her arms. "Just someone who doesn't take no for an answer." Dwayne looked at Philip, unimpressed. "You need to leave." Philip scoffed. "Stay out of this, Johnson." Dwayne took a step closer, his voice calm but firm. "No. You stay out of this. If you think you can bully Mia, you're dead wrong." Philip hesitated. The two men behind him shifted uncomfortably. They weren't expecting a fight with someone like Dwayne. "This isn't over," Philip muttered, before turning and storming out. His goons followed, the bakery doors slamming behind them. Mia let out a shaky breath. "Thank you," she whispered. Dwayne put a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You don't need to thank me. But I think we need to tighten security around here." Mia nodded, knowing Philip wouldn't give up easily. The battle wasn't over yet. When Jake's grandfather passed away, the family gathered at his old house to sort through his belongings. The place held decades of memories, but there was one room no one had ever been allowed to enter: Grandpa's attic. Jake, a curious 16-year-old, had always wondered what was up there. So, when his parents got busy downstairs, he saw his chance. Carefully, he climbed the creaky wooden steps, pushing open the dusty attic door. Sunlight peeked through the tiny window, casting eerie shadows over the forgotten boxes and old furniture. As Jake looked around, something caught his eye: a large wooden chest in the far corner, covered in a thick layer of dust. His heart pounded with excitement. Was this some kind of family secret? Jake tugged at the rusted lock, but it wouldn't budge. He searched the attic for something to break it open and found an old hammer. With a few hard swings, the lock snapped, and the lid creaked open. Inside, wrapped in faded cloth, was a stack of old letters and a small velvet pouch. Jake carefully unfolded one of the letters. As he read, his eyes widened in shock. The letter was addressed to his grandfather, but it was written by a woman Jake had never heard of. The words spoke of love, regret, and a child she was forced to give up. Jake's hands trembled. Was his grandfather keeping a secret sibling from the family? His curiosity deepened as he opened the velvet pouch. Inside was a locket with a black and white photo of a young woman holding a baby. Jake flipped it over and saw an inscription: "For my dearest William, until we meet again." William was his grandfather's name. Just then, footsteps echoed up the stairs. "Jake?" His mother's voice called. Panicked, he shoved the letters back into the chest, but he kept the locket. His mom stepped inside, frowning. "What are you doing up here?" Jake hesitated before holding up the locket. "Mom, who is this woman?" Her expression changed instantly. She took the locket, her fingers tracing the edges as tears welled up in her eyes. "Where did you find this?" she whispered. "In that chest," Jake admitted. "Who is she?" His mom sighed and sat on an old trunk. I think this might be my father's biggest secret." She opened one of the letters and read silently. Then, with a deep breath, she looked at Jake. "Your grandfather might have had a sibling we never knew about." Jake's mind raced. This changed everything. Who was the woman? Where was the child now? And why had Grandpa kept this hidden for so long? As the attic filled with silence, Jake knew one thing: this mystery wasn't over. He was going to find the truth. 5 years had passed since Lucas's older brother, Ethan, vanished without a trace. No one knew what happened to him. One moment, he was there laughing, making jokes, and the next, he was just gone. The police searched everywhere, but there were no leads, no clues. His family had almost given up hope. One rainy afternoon, Lucas was helping his mother clean out the attic when he spotted an old wooden box tucked away in the corner. Something about it seemed strange, like it was waiting to be discovered. "Mom, what's this?" Lucas asked, brushing off the dust. His mother looked over, her face pale. That was Ethan's. Lucas' heart pounded. His brother's things had been packed away long ago. Why was this still here? He carefully opened the box. Inside, he found some of Ethan's old belongings: a few notebooks, a broken watch, and at the very bottom, a thin silver chain. Lucas froze. He knew this chain. Ethan had worn it every single day. His mother gasped, covering her mouth. That's the chain Ethan had on when he disappeared. A chill ran down Lucas's spine. If Ethan was wearing this the night he vanished, then how did it end up here? Determined to find answers, Lucas took the chain to his dad. When his father saw it, his hands trembled. "Where did you find this?" he demanded. "In the attic," Lucas said. "Dad, do you think Ethan came back?" His father didn't answer right away. Instead, he rushed to the attic and started searching frantically through old boxes. Finally, he pulled out an envelope. It was yellowed with age, and the handwriting on it was shaky. "It's from Ethan," his father whispered. Lucas's mother grabbed the letter, her hands shaking as she read aloud. "If you find this, it means I was right. They were watching me. I had to leave before it was too late. Don't trust them. The truth is hidden in the basement." Silence filled the room. Lucas' mind raced. Who was they? What was hidden in the basement? Without hesitation, Lucas and his parents rushed downstairs. The basement had always been just a storage space: old furniture, dusty shelves, But now, it felt different. Lucas spotted a loose floorboard near the back wall. He pried it up and gasped. Beneath it was a hidden compartment. Inside lay a stack of papers, newspaper clippings, and photos. They were all about a mysterious disappearance in their town from 30 years ago. The photos showed a group of men in dark suits standing outside a familiar house. Their house. Lucas' father turned pale. Oh my God. Ethan knew something. He found out the truth. Lucas looked down at the silver chain in his hands. Ethan had left them a clue. But now, one question remained. Where was Ethan? And was it too late to save him? For 5 years, Liam's older sister, Ava, had been missing. No leads, no clues, just an empty room and a family left with unanswered questions. Liam barely remembered the night she vanished. He had been only 10 years old, half asleep, when he heard hushed voices outside her bedroom. By morning, she was gone. His parents did everything they could, hiring private investigators, putting up flyers, but as time passed, the hope of finding Ava slowly faded. But then, something changed. One evening, while helping his mom clear out the garage, Liam stumbled upon an old shoebox wedged behind a shelf. It was covered in dust, but when he opened it, his breath caught. Inside were Ava's things. A bracelet she never took off. A small notebook. And at the bottom, a folded piece of paper with shaky handwriting. Liam's hands trembled as he read, "If anything happens to me, it's because I found out the truth. Look under the old tree in the backyard." His heart pounded. Ava had left a message. She knew something that had put her in danger. "Look at this," Liam called. His mother's face went pale as she scanned the note. Without hesitation, they ran to the backyard, where an ancient oak tree stood tall. Liam grabbed a shovel and started digging. Within minutes, the metal edge of the shovel hit something solid. A small metal box. With shaky fingers, he pried it open. Inside were old photographs, newspaper clippings, and a flash drive. One of the photos made Liam's blood run cold. It was Ava, standing with a group of men in dark suits, men he had never seen before. But the most chilling part? She looked scared. Liam's mother gasped. That's the old mayor. But why is Ava with him? Digging further, they found a newspaper article from 6 years ago. It was about a corruption scandal in the city, one that had been quickly covered up. Liam plugged the flash drive into a laptop, and a video file popped up. They clicked play. Ava appeared on screen, her voice trembling. "If you're watching this, it means they found out. I uncovered something dangerous, something they don't want anyone to know. The people running this town? They're hiding something huge. I have proof, but I don't think I'll be able to show it." The video ended abruptly. Liam and his mother sat in stunned silence. Ava had been on the verge of exposing something massive. And then she was gone. Liam clenched his fists. He had spent years believing Ava had just disappeared. But now, he knew the truth. She had been taken. And whoever did it thought they had buried her secret forever. But they were wrong. Because now, Liam was going to finish what Ava started.